Welcome back. Today I'm here with the 190E. If you've been following me putting it together and trying to get it on the road, it is on the road, and I'll probably do an update video at some point. But today I'm going to show you guys how to check valve clearances, and it's really straightforward. All you're going to need is a feeler gauge, a 27mm socket, and a 10mm socket just to get this valve cover off. And while you're doing this, you might just want to get a new rubber gasket as well. Since you can have it off, you might as well change it. The other thing I'd recommend doing is a compression test before and after, so you can see what impact it's had, whether you were losing some compression through the valves. Right, let's get to it. Let's get this off. The only thing I forgot to mention, this is, as you can see, a 2.5 16 valve, but it's exactly the same on the 2.3 16 valve as well. The only difference you'll see once I open this up is this has the duplex timing chain, whereas on the 2.3 it'll have a single. So all of those are out. Just need to be careful with the washers. Try to get them off if you can. Just need to take this off as well. So you can see the camshaft there. This is the inlet one, and we're going to be measuring the gap between the camshaft lobe and the bucket down there, just like that as well. You need the camshaft to be pointing up, which is why you need 27mm, which can go on the crankshaft pulley down there. And you're going to spin it clockwise just to turn the camshafts around so that the lobes are pointing up, and then check each one. These have solid shims underneath these buckets, so if any of the tolerances are out, you are going to have to take the camshaft off from here. This bit stays intact, and the camshaft actually comes apart down here. You take all of these off, and then you can swap out the shims that are already in there with whatever's needed. And the only way you'll figure out what's actually sat under these buckets is by taking it out. So you can't just order a set of shims in advance unless you're buying a whole range of them. You might be able to get away with it. Okay, so I'm looking here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there's the specs. The top is the inlet side. Yep, so the top is inlet side, so between 0.1 and 0.2mm is a spec, and on the exhaust side it's 0.25 and 0.35mm, and that's up to 50 degrees. If it's on a warm engine, there's some specs there. Like I said, I'll put this document in the link below. So we can take your feeler gauge. Let's try the lower end of the limit, which is 0.1mm, and this one is already in position, so yeah, okay, so that one slides in nice and easy, so we're good on that front. Let's try 0.2, which is the maximum it should be, and it doesn't slide in, so that one is within spec, which is good. So that one doesn't need adjusting at all. And what you'll need to do is note all these down. Again, there's a document from Mercedes where you do the calculations, mark down what you've measured. I've actually done a spreadsheet as well, which again I'll link down below. But you do that for each and every single valve. So I'm going to get on with having a look at all these, noting them down. So I've measured all of the inlet side. On the exhaust side, the spec is between 0.25 and 0.35. So see if I can slide that under. And as you can see, the cam lobe is just completely opposite to the bucket. So 0.25 doesn't fit. So you need to go down. Let's try 0.2. Again, doesn't fit. About 0.15. Let's try that. Okay, 0.15 fits. 0.15 fits. So that one's definitely going to need changing. And I'll go to my spreadsheet and just mark that down. So this is 11 and 12. And they were both 0.15. 0.15. And you can see it's out by, well, it's out by 0.15. So depending on the shim that's in there, say it had a 2.75 shim currently in there, I'm going to need a 2.6 shim to go in instead. Yeah, again, like I said, I'll link this little spreadsheet I've done below. So I've already measured all of the inlet side, and none of them will need adjusting, so that's good. This first two are at 0.1 rather than being bang in the middle at 0.15, but that's still within spec, so I'm going to leave that. It means I'll only have to take out the camshaft for the exhaust side. Alright, final one, and as you can see, I'll just spin the camshaft using the crankshaft down there. Now on mine, someone's already got rid of the original fan, so you might just have to take that off to have better access, but with mine mounted to the radiator I've already got enough access without needing to remove that. So let's have a look at this final one. Again, start off with 0.25, which is the bottom of the spec. Again, doesn't fit. Let's go down to 0.2. And you need to really try squeeze them in between. So 0.2 fits on the first one, but it doesn't on the second one. And yeah, 0.15 fits in there. Alright, so that's pretty much every single one on the exhaust side is going to need adjusting. So I'll better get cracking. I'll have to remove the camshaft, and then I'll have to pull out the buckets. Again, you need to be really careful, be methodical at all points, note down everything you've done. I'm gonna have separate containers for each of the 2 buckets I'm going to be taking out from each cylinder. Sorry, no, individual containers. I think I've got one which is split, which is quite handy. But anyway, I'll run through that. I actually found this box from when I did this last time on my old car, and looks like I've saved some shims as well that I didn't need at the time, so I'm hoping Some of these might come in handy. You're going to need a micrometer. This is to measure the shim that's in there currently, and then you need to obviously figure out how far out it is from the spec and the new shim that you will need. And then this is a valve grind stick, I believe, but it's just a little suction pad just to pull out the bucket and the shim. Obviously make sure all of these things are clean. Anyway, let's get the camshaft removed. You need to get to top dead center for cylinder 1, and there's 2 little markings there on each of the sprockets. There's a little hole just there, and there's the same on that sprocket, which you line up to get the top dead center. And then the instructions say you remove this, and then you can start taking those bolts off. And then before you take any others off, you just need to mark between those two there. And then it's important to make sure you note where each of these bolts and these numbered bearing brackets go. You make sure everything goes back as it was matched up here. So you can see this is number 1. Just got number 2 on it. 3, 4, 5. Make sure these bolts go nuts go back where they should as well. So I've removed the 4 bolts from the sprocket there, and now just have to take off the remaining bearing brackets. I've got all of the cam brackets off, so I'll just push it back and it'll just pop off from there, and I can lift it out carefully. Okay, and I'm going to stick it in some cling film and some microfiber, make sure to keep it safe. Now you can see all these buckets, which we're going to pull out and see what shims are underneath. Obviously we've already measured all the gaps, and we'll see what shims need to go in instead. Okay, so now you need this valve grind stick. And we're going to pull out the bucket carefully. And you can see there's a shim inside, which is what we need to measure. So I'm going to carefully place it in the correct numbered one, which is this, and we'll figure out what is needed instead. Time to measure what size these are and get them recorded on our spreadsheet so we can figure out what we need instead. So got my micrometer. I'm just checking my spreadsheet. So the current clearance is 0.2, but we need 0.3, so the new shim needs to be 0.1 smaller than it is. So once I've measured this, I'll stick this in the spreadsheet. So it looks like the current shim is 3.1 millimeters. So we need a 3 millimeter shim to get the correct clearance on that one. It's been a few days, and I actually put the car back together in between while I bought some new shims. So here are the shims. They're actually from Kawasaki, as you can see. They are 13 millimeter shims. They're for some specific bikes, and I had the oddest conversation with the guy on the sales counter because I told him I need them for a Mercedes 190 Cosworth 16 valve. Not many bikes use them. I think 80s and 90s, certain models. I'll put them in the description below. But you can essentially call up Kawasaki and order these. Unfortunately, they couldn't get all of them in time, so I actually found some from Hot Cams on eBay, and I ordered a few more of those. So the only thing left to do is open all this back up, and I'll show you how to get these in. So the only thing I'll be doing is just double checking the measurements before I stick these new ones in. Right, let's go. So just use a magnet so you don't lose all of the washers, because they can go flying everywhere, and obviously don't lose any of the bolts either. Number 9, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see. I've just checked, and it's definitely a 3.1 in there. I actually need a 3. Obviously we had a current clearance of 0.2, but we needed a 0.3, so it needs to be 0.1 smaller. So I'm going to stick a 3mm shim in. So there you go, that's all of the new shims in place. You can see they've got numbers on top, so I'm just going to double check before I put everything back. So the buckets are here, and there's the old shim, which are now spare, and I can stick these back in all of the numbered places that they originally came from. So let's get those back in, and then I can get the camshaft back on, line it up with that mark there, and get the bolts through there, and then get all of the brackets back on, and that should be it. Then I'll just turn the engine over once and check all the clearances again using the feeler gauge. So I've got here. Okay, time to get the camshaft back on. I'll just stick a bit of oil over it just to make sure it's not completely dry. So I'll just put these 2 bolts back in. You can see there's none of the brackets on there. I'll just put the camshaft in there, obviously making sure that mark still lines up. Okay, so it kind of needs to be there. I'll start sticking the brackets down and then just turn it over and get this final bracket on and the last 2 bolts on the other side. And then can stick the valve cover. No, we're going to check the valve clearances again before we do that. And then I'll stick the valve cover back on and we should be good to go. So all of those brackets are hand tight. Now I've just got my torque wrench and need to, well, I've got it set to 21 Newton meters. Just go around and make sure those are all tight. Right, so that's shims all swapped over, everything's torqued up, everything's back where it should be. I just need to get the valve cover back on, and that's how you do your valve clearances on a 190E, 2.5 16 valve, or even the 2.3 16 valve. It's exactly the same. As mentioned, you can use 13mm Kawasaki shims, and I'll put a link or some details in the description on which shims you need from which bike. Right, let's get this back on and we're done. Right, there you have it, valve adjustment done and dusted. Hopefully that helps you out. Any questions, drop them in the comments. Until next time.